You just couldn't get the breakthrough that you needed.
Yeah, I feel like we played well. We had a lot of chances, better chances than they did. But football is all about taking your chances, and we didn't do that today, which was disappointing. But gutted. But you know, we played some good stuff today. Of course, we're going to be gutted, but you know, we played some good stuff today, I think.
Yeah, it felt like the shape of the side looked good and the approach was good. Again, you're just lacking that cutting edge.
Exactly, and like I said, that's basically what wins you games, and we haven't got that at the minute. But there's definitely a big improvement today in our recent performances. But like you said, you need to score goals to win.
That's why they were able to get through with the counter-attacks.
Yeah, exactly. We pushed players forward and they were able to catch us in the counter a couple of times, which was the risk, but everyone will be very disappointed. But like I said, I think there's a lot of improvement in our football today than recent performances, which I think the fans can take that away.
And it's going to be a tough run-in.
There's always things to chase. I think we take one game at a time, and we just want to improve as a whole team and just win as many games as we can for the rest of the season. And like I said, we're going to take it game by game, and hopefully we can build on kind of performance there, because I feel like it was positive in a way.
Thanks, Colin.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So what is there to chase then for Chelsea? What is left of this sorry season? We'll talk about that in detail. I think looking forwards and talking about the future for this football club, for these players of this sorry season. We'll talk about that in detail. I think looking forwards and talking about the future for this football club, for these players, is important. But first we have to reflect on this evening. And absolutely, you know, Conor Gallagher's right when he says there was improvements, but it's still exactly the same as we've talked about all season long. They create chances, they don't take chances, and the chances they created were really good.
They did. They played well, particularly in the first half. I thought Frank got the tactics right, but you can't discount for how low the confidence are. If it was in place, you go, right, okay, we can't get into Europe, we're out of all competitions, but you know there could be players playing for their place that, you know, you'd want some improvement, win games between now and the end of the season, some change the formation maybe. But now, because that's not in place as well, you know, or is that going to continue to be behind the scenes, taken out of the hands of whatever manager's in charge? So it's hard to know what the season brings. It's a real tough job for Frank now, because it was tough motivating a lot of the squad. 30 players is in the squad is absurd, because a lot of them think they should be starting, let alone just in and around it. And now, you know, how are you going to motivate them players? You know, they'll be now already thinking, you know, what am I going to do for the summer? Because it's hard. It's just a hard job for Frank to get a tune out of them for the rest of the season. But they've got to be professional. Some of them will be playing for their futures and trying to impress the next club. Some will be trying to stake a claim for whoever comes through the door. It's tough.
Frank will be saying, I think Frank's conversations with the players when he's in their meetings will be, listen, don't think about me. Don't think about me and my coaching staff. You've got to think about yourselves now. Do you want to be here next season? And there'll be players in there who'll be answering that question with the way they perform and the way they apply themselves on a day-to-day basis, the ones who want to say. There'll be players there that will be sitting there who've already had the conversations with their agents saying, listen, you get me out of this place as soon as you can, because I don't want to be here. I'm either not getting my chances or I'm not happy with the way the place has been run at the moment. And that's just a fact of life. That's what happens at football. The place has been run at the moment. And that's just a fact of life. That's what happens at football clubs. But it's about managing that now for Frank and in the best way possible that helps this football club to transition from this period now into what they'd like to think will be a better case scenario going into the new season.
It's incredible, isn't it, how much of a mistake they've made buying so many players. And it's going to hit them where it hurts in the pocket, because now they're going to have to get rid of players. Some players that won't want to leave, so they're going to have to pay them off. It's been a real expensive mistake. Also,
sorry, Mo, also when you've got players sitting on the huge wages, who've got 3 or 4, 5, some 6, 7 years to go on their contracts, great, right? You know, the problem you got is who buys them for a big price and pays that amount of wages that they're.
there's going to have a lag, you know, a problem for a few years now. They're going to have players that they want out that they can't get out. They're going to have to get players out, so they might have to get some of the players that don't really want to get rid of out.
But how do they decide who to get rid of when they don't have the man in place who's going to take them forwards? It almost feels like until that happens, you can't make the big decisions.
The manager never probably bought half of these anyway. So
can't make the big decisions.
The manager never probably bought half of these anyway. So they'll probably the chairman and the people around him probably bought most of these in. So I guess that they'll be deciding themselves on who goes as well.
That's not working.
The problem is when you, I feel when you're recruiting players, you recruit players style of football that you want to play and a certain type of formation that you might play. They haven't got a manager, so how are they going to be able to start that process of even thinking about players when they haven't got the unless behind the scenes there's a manager out of work right now who they could be talking to, they know's in place and not pushing the button yet, but they're getting things in order for when they do press the button and say, right, you're in charge.
You're not going to start working until you've signed your contract, because you could do 5 or 6 works on recruitment, then the owners think for whatever reason, I'm going to go with someone else. You know, so they have to figure, there has to be a meeting where they go, right, this is the time frame we're going to go to get the new manager in. As soon as the new manager's through the door, then we're going to start. We're not even going to think about who's coming or going. We're not even going to think about who's coming or going until we get a new manager. Otherwise, it gets messy. A new manager walks in the door, he thinks he's getting 4 or 5 players, and he walks straight in the door and he goes, oh no, we're looking to offload player A, player B, player C. So you cannot, at a football club, do anything until you have a manager or a director of football who's going to drive where you're going from a footballing perspective.
It's a reminder that you can't just buy expensively assembled individual talents and expect them to play well.
I don't know if Cucurella was the best player at Brighton.
To be fair, he was their player of the year. He was their player of the year. So they went and got thinking that this is going to solve some problems for us. Suddenly you realise that it's about a plan, it's about culture, it's about cohesion. They went and got it thinking that this is going to solve some problems for us. Suddenly you realise that it's about a plan, it's about culture, it's about coherence, it's about structure from top to bottom, it's about communication. None of that seems here.
Brighton Football Club is run really well, from recruitment, from the top to the bottom. They're meticulous in what they do. They don't rush. They go on fishing the ponds that suit them, that they identify, and they go, that's our area, and they're very different to what we're seeing here at the moment.
What do they need to do here? Getting a new manager in is one job.
But that's taken time to get to that for Brighton. That's happened overnight.
Yeah, but
so
what do Chelsea need to put in place now to be able to allow themselves to move forwards from here? It feels like they're sort of stuck.
They need a director of football. If they're not going to get a manager, they need and they think that they're going to, that they've changed the man. There's been 4 men in charge already this season, all right? So when they come in, it's going to be patience. Already there've been 4 men sitting down in that dugout taking the team now. So that already breeds, you know, insecurity amongst the squad. So if you're going to be a hire and fire, and that's fine. This club's been so successful doing that over the last 20 years. But you need someone behind the scenes who's going to be the one like a done at Brighton and the job he's doing at Newcastle, someone like that who can bring the right players in at the right money at the right time, and then you just get the coaches who play that style of football, and then you can rotate them. But it's got to be
that's
something.
Almost feels like it's the first thing to get. Then is it get that role sorted?
I'd say so.
Rotate them, but it's got to be something.
Almost feels like it's the first thing to get. Then is it get that role sorted?
I'd say so. I mean, when you look at the playing staff and when the players they brought in, I still think there's some great players here. It's an incredibly talented team. So I think they've got the basis of, you know, they have got everything, haven't they? They've got the great training ground, you know, everything about them is very good, but they've almost done it in the wrong way round. They've just gone and bought everyone, and now there's a drain in managers. I'm certain of it. I asked a question of Frank Lampard before the game. When you go into a training ground and you've got 30-odd players, you can bet your bottom dollar. You walk through the door and think, oh, who's next? Who's going to knock on my door next? And it drains you having to keep 15 people happy before you then can concentrate on improving your team. You're having to deal with 15 unhappy players. It must be so draining. They've got to. You're having to deal with 15 unhappy players. It must be so draining. They've got to do that before anything.
I reckon he's spending as much time, if not more time, thinking about and then implementing that part of his job.
So who makes that call then? Who goes? Which players go?
Well,
it'll be the guys behind the
new
scene.
Manager, all behind the
recruitment
scenes, the whole team. But they've got to get that team together, haven't they? first of all. How many times have we seen it? How many times have we seen it? Nottingham Forest did it this year. Fulham did it when they came.